2023 was a year full of captivating criminal trials in South Florida, so we're taking a look back at 4 of the most widely followed trials of the year. A road rage incident in 2019 led to a prison sentence for a rising telenovela star in 2023. Pablo Lyle once starred in several Mexican telenovelas and was even named one of the most beautiful people by People en Español. Now he will spend the next 5 years behind bars after delivering a punch that ended up killing 63-year-old Juan Ricardo Hernandez back in 2019 in Miami at a red light. Hernandez accused Lyle of cutting him off while the actor was driving to the airport with his family. There was a verbal argument that broke out, then Lyle charged towards Hernandez and punched him in the face. Hernandez fell to the ground. His head smacked against the concrete. He suffered a traumatic brain injury and died 4 days later. Lyle's defense team stood firm that he felt threatened and acted in self-defense, but prosecutors said it was Hernandez who felt threatened. The witness corroborated the prosecutor's claim, saying she heard Hernandez begging for Lyle not to hurt him after a week-long trial. Lyle eventually was convicted of manslaughter. In February, Hernandez's family fought for the maximum sentence, but the judge showed Lyle mercy. Lyle faced between 9 and 15 years in prison, but was sentenced to the 5 years after a judge said his remorse was genuine. Here's an ordeal police had called a lifetime movie in real life. This summer, a supermarket mogul was sentenced to life in prison over a decade after orchestrating the violent murder of the man who had an affair with his wife. A number of players were involved here in the 2011 murder of businessman Camilo Salazar, and all were recruited by Manuel Marin, a former executive of Presidente Supermarkets, which is one of the fastest growing Hispanic grocery chains in the country. Marin wasn't convicted in the actual murder of Salazar, but he was found guilty of setting in motion the events that led to his gruesome death. Officials say he enlisted the help of 2 ex-MMA fighters as well as a fight trainer and promoter to execute the killing. The victim, Salazar, had an affair with Marin's then wife, Jenny Marin, from 2008 to 2011. His body was found on a dirt road in the Florida Everglades, bound, beaten, tortured. His throat was slashed and his body was also partially burned. Shortly after the murder, Marin fled to Spain, where he remained a fugitive for years until his arrest in 2018. During his sentence in May, the judge gave Marin the maximum life sentence on the kidnapping charge, along with 30 years for manslaughter, 15 years for conspiracy to commit kidnapping. The acquittal of Scott Peterson also captivated South Florida this year. A school resource officer remembered for fleeing to safety instead of helping students during the 2018 Parkland massacre. It was the first time a U.S. police officer had been charged with failing to act during a school shooting. Peterson's actions in 2018 ignited outrage and frustration, not only in South Florida, but really throughout the country. The Broward Sheriff's deputy broke down in tears, wept when he was found not guilty of 7 counts of felony child neglect back in June. 5 years ago, Peterson arrived at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School as the mass shooting began. While the shooter was inside firing his AR-15, Peterson was on the opposite side of the hallway. Instead of opening the door, he took cover at a neighboring building. Prosecutors said that if Peterson had opened the door, looked in a window, or done anything to seek information about the situation, he could have helped stop or distract the shooter, therefore preventing fewer deaths and fewer injuries as well. His actions have earned him the nickname, the Coward of Broward. Rounding out our list is the double murder trial against rising rapper YNW Melly. This is the only trial on our list that is still ongoing after a judge declared a mistrial earlier this year. See, Melly's trial is also perhaps the most viral on our list. Live streams of his hearings on YouTube have garnered at least hundreds of thousands of views each. Melly, whose real name is Jamel Demons, faces a possible death sentence if he is convicted of first-degree murder in the 2018 slaying of 2 childhood friends. They're known as YNW Juvie and YNW Sack Chaser. The trio were also in the same rap collective. Prosecutors say that after a late-night recording session, Melly shot the men inside an SUV, then tried to make it look like a drive-by shooting. This past July, after over 2 weeks of hearings and deliberations, the jury failed to reach a unanimous decision, voting 9-3 for conviction. The retrial begins in February, and if he's convicted, Melly will be one of the first to be sentenced under Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' law that no longer requires a unanimous vote by a jury to recommend a death penalty.